Okay, so I've gone ahead and drawn a nephron here. And we want to look at the loops of Henle. All right, so we've already looked at the renal corpuscle, so that was filtration. We looked at the proximal convoluted tubule, and that was where most of reabsorption occurred. So what happens when we go down into the descending loop of Henle? All right, we need to talk about something called osmolarity. So osmolarity is basically the concentration of a solution, expressed in milliosmoles per liter. Milliosmoles per liter. So basically that's saying that we are looking at the concentration, so the amount of stuff that's in a solution, which makes it either concentrated or kind of dilute, okay? All right, so the higher the amount, the osmolarity number, the more stuff that's in there, so the more concentrated it is. And the lower the osmolarity number, the milliosmoles per liter number is, then the more dilute that solution is, okay? So as we're going into the loops of Henle, we're looking at, now we're starting to prep the filtrate to become urine, okay? So when we look at the blood, when we talk about osmolarity and the amount of stuff that's in there, the blood is at about 300 milliosmoles. It's actually at like 270 or something like that, but 300 makes it even and easy. Okay, so 300 milliosmoles is the plasma, the blood there. And the interstitial space, the interstitial fluid, is also 300 milliosmoles. So it's isoosmotic to the plasma, okay? Also, in this area, you see that we're up here. This is the cortex. So under that, down here, would be the medulla. Medulla. So where this first line is, above that is the cortex. Below that is the medulla. Okay? And in the cortex, the tubules, the proximal convoluted tubule, the Bowman's capsule, whatever, it is also 300, isoosmotic to the blood. Okay, so that means in the proximal convoluted tubule, it's 300. Okay, isoosmotic. All right. So in the loops of Henle, just real quick here, let's look at some little things about them. So the descending loop of Henle, in the descending loop of Henle, the walls of that loop, of that tubule, or part of the tubule, is permeable to water only. So it's permeable to water, not solutes. Okay, so the walls of the descending tubule, the descending loop of Henle, are rather thin, and again, only permeable to water. All right, in the ascending loop of Henle. It is impermeable to water, and it actively pumps out solutes out of the tubule. Okay? All right, so as we're coming around into the descending loop of Henle, we're at 300 milliosmoles and we're going down into the medulla. As we're going down the medulla, we're getting saltier and saltier and saltier. Okay, and here's kind of what's going on here. So as we're going down, water is going to be leaving. Okay, water follows the solute, correct? So this part of the tubule is only, even though there's stuff in here, there's still solutes in the filtrate here as it's coming down. But again, it is only permeable to water. Okay, so as we're coming down the medulla and we're getting saltier and saltier, there has to be a higher number here than here in the filtrate to draw the water out. Okay, so as we go down into the medulla, the osmolarity starts to increase. Okay, so it's 400. Then it goes to, let's say, 600, and then 800, whatever, all the way down. And as it's going down, water is leaving. Okay. So it's 800, 900. Actually, I think I did this. Let me redo it because I think I put enough lines. Okay, so 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. Okay, so as the filtrate is coming down the descending loop, you see that the osmolarity is increasing in the interstitial fluid. That means there's more solute in the interstitial fluid than there is in the tubule. So the water is leaving. The water is coming out. So it's causing, as it comes out, remember, osmosis, the whole purpose of it is for equilibrium. So water is coming out to make this equal. So it is to make this one 500 and that one 500. This one 600 and that one 600. Okay? So again, just trying to equalize what's in the tubule to what's on the outside. So as it's getting more and more concentrated on the way down, the filtrate is starting to get more and more concentrated until finally at the bottom, it is 1,200 milliosmoles. And by the time as the water comes out, by the time it gets to the bottom of where it makes the hairpin turn, it is going to be isoosmotic with the bottom of it is going to be isoosmotic with that area, which is 1,200. Okay? So that's what's going on here in the descending loop. Water is leaving and it's creating a more concentrated filtrate. Okay? So we make the hairpin turn and we enter the ascending loop of Henle. So we're going back up. Here's 1,000, 900, 800, 700, and so on, up. So as we go up here, now the walls are impermeable to water. Water can't leave now. So whatever water is left in there is in there. It cannot leave. But on top of that, it also has these pumps that are pumping out solutes. Whatever else. So it's pumping out these solutes, right? Pumping out solutes and not letting water out. So you can see how this gradient is maintaining as the water's coming out, coming into the interstitial space. It's not making the interstitial space more dilute, because over here in the descending loop right next door, we're pumping out solutes into the interstitial space. Okay, and it does that all the way up till we get to the distal convoluted tubule. Once we get to the distal convoluted tubule, the filtrate could be as low as 100 milliosmoles. Okay, so it could be really, really, really diluted. All right. Okay, so there's a reason too why the water doesn't dilute the interstitial space, because it's of course it's going, the water's going to the interstitial space, and we're having solutes pumped into the interstitial space, but there's also something else happening as well. And what's happening is that this water, a lot of this water and these solutes are being scooped up by the peritubule capillaries. Okay, so the peritubule capillaries are coming around here, right? We went through kind of this before. Peritubular capillaries are coming up this way. Okay. Right? So that water, some of that water is being reabsorbed into the blood. Some of these pumped solutes are also being reabsorbed into the blood. So there's reabsorption going on here as well. So the process by which the water is coming out of the descending loop of Henle, creating a more concentrated filtrate, that is called the countercurrent multiplier. Okay, and that is making the filtrate more concentrated as it goes down. It's making the water is coming out into the interstitial space, which is making the interstitial space less concentrated. But then over here we have the in the ascending loop, we have the pumping of solutes into that interstitial space, which is causing the osmolarity of that area to remain, to help keep it more concentrated. Okay, now the process by which this water is now being, some of it is being reabsorbed into the blood and some of these solutes are going into the blood, that is called the countercurrent exchanger. But ultimately, when we get to the end, when we get to the distal convoluted tubule, we're going to have dilute filtrate, and it can be as low as 100 milliosmoles per liter. All right, so the next video I'm going to post really explains how this process goes. I know it's confusing. So make sure to watch the next video. It's not me, it's a video that I'm posting that's someone else's video.